What's up, everybody? This is Hip Audio. My name is Dave, and today we're looking at these microphones right here. If you're talking about starting a podcast, you're starting a YouTube channel, you're shopping for microphones. You probably have heard about these two microphones. On your left, the Electro Voice EV RE20. It's been in radio stations for a very long time. And then over here on this side, we have the Shure SM7B. This microphone originally got its fame from being the SM7 was the vocal microphone used for Michael Jackson's vocals on Thriller. So you see this one a lot. This one Joe Rogan uses. This one every radio personality you can think of has used this microphone. Which one's better for you? I'll give you some great things to think about, and I'll give you some great tips on how to shop for these microphones. There's some very important things to keep in mind when you're shopping for these, especially if you're buying secondhand, okay? So stay tuned for that. First off, let's talk about price. On your left, the RE20 comes in at $450 retail, brand new. On your right, the Shure SM7B comes in at $400 retail, brand new. Next, let's talk about aesthetics. Let's start with the RE20. I cannot get over how cool this microphone looks. And I've got it in the suspension mount, which, by the way, I didn't mention this when we talked about price earlier, but the suspension mount is like another $115, $120. And if you don't buy the suspension mount, you're just gonna end up with a clip like this, which actually surprisingly does a pretty good job of not letting it, because that's a long, heavy microphone, and I would expect it to droop. If you don't have the clip, and you don't have the suspension mount, this clip by itself is like $60. And so you're stuck between choosing to spend $60 on a microphone clip or $120 on a suspension mount. It's so industrial. It looks like it's military grade. It looks like a machine gun. Like the cannon on the end of a tank. Look at that. It's so cool looking. The build quality is incredible. You could dent the grill if you dropped it on the end here, but the rest of this is just bulletproof. Nothing says cool audio technology like this microphone. So this really makes sense for me from an aesthetic standpoint. This for, a show where I talk about audio stuff. Great choice, great choice. Let's take a look at the SM7. So the Shure SM7B is not nearly as visually imposing. It's much more understated microphone, black windscreen, black body. You've got some switches here on the back and the Shure logo. So if you wanted a microphone that didn't draw your eye so much, the SM7B might be the way to go for you. Both of these microphones have a relatively low output and require more gain than a lot of microphones. You will see people use signal boosting boxes or devices in line with two microphone cables when using these microphones. A very popular model of these booster boxes is the Cloud Lifter. They just have an XLR input and an XLR output, and they are powered by phantom power. So you send this little box phantom power, and it will boost the microphone signal a few extra dB to get a good, usable, clean signal. So if you're using either one of these microphones, you're gonna make sure that your mixer or your recording device has lots of good gain on their microphone preamps. Otherwise, you're gonna have to boost those mics with a mic booster. Also, if you're doing a podcast and you wanna get a podcast mixer like the Roadcasters, the Roadcaster Mark I is considered to not quite have enough good, clean gain for these microphones on its own. So you would wanna use these booster boxes for that. The Rodecaster Pro 2 actually has improved microphone preamps which have more good, clean gain, and you wouldn't have to buy these signal boosters with your microphones, so consider that when you're comparing the price of podcast mixers. Okay, so we're gonna talk about sound quality, but this is kind of one of the least interesting things here. These are both excellent microphones, and they're typically used for vocals, and they both sound amazing, and you're gonna be able to make a great sounding podcast or vocal performance or pretty much anything using either one of these microphones. They sound great. They handle a ton of SPL, sound pressure level, a whole lot of volume. Put them in front of guitar cabs, put them in front of kick drums, put them in front of somebody screaming. No problem, gonna sound great. I'll go ahead and give you a couple back and forths between like what this sounds like on my voice and what this sounds like on my voice. But again, they're both great sounding microphones. Either one of these is a good choice for sound quality. You might prefer one or the other on your voice, but that's gonna be your personal preference and depend on what your voice sounds like. Okay, before we listen to these microphones, I wanna make it clear that you have not heard my voice through either one of these microphones yet. You've been listening to me on a Sennheiser MKH50, which is suspended above the camera over the table. I have noticed that the volume coming out of the RE20 is a little bit hotter. So in post, in editing, I'm gonna try to match them and just boost this SM7B just a little bit to where they match up, because it only takes a little bit of volume to trick your brain into thinking something sounds better, even though it's just a little bit louder. So I'll make sure that that doesn't happen for you. Okay, I've got both these microphones just a few inches off the front of my face. I have the low cut filter disengaged, and there's also a boost on this microphone as well that is also disengaged. And there's also a low cut filter on the RE20 that is disengaged. And I have disengaged the low cut filter on the recorder as well. So this should give you a good representation of what is coming out of the back of these microphones with none of the boosts and none of the filters and anything like that. This is the microphone that you are listening to right now. This is the microphone that you're listening to right now. Peter pickled peppers on my pizza. Peter pickled peppers on my pizza. So I alluded to some filters that are available on the microphones earlier. I'll show you what those are now. This is the SM7B. It has a couple of filters on it. When this comes in the box brand new, it comes with this little cover, and that is just screwed onto the back there like so. And then to get to those filters, you remove the two small screws and the filter comes off. If you're in a recording studio and you want to be able to get to these options all the time so you can change them quickly and easily, you just kind of leave this plate off and you put it in a drawer somewhere and you forget about it. But if you're in a studio and these microphones are always going to be used for the same purpose and you like the settings that you have and you don't want anyone to change them, you can totally take this plate, bolt it onto there, and then they'll never be able to change it again. So I will take my screwdriver and I will make that adjustment here. And now I've engaged the low cut filter. Making that adjustment on the Electro Voice RE20 is a little bit simpler. There's simply a switch that's easily accessible on the side of the microphone here, and I'll just make that adjustment now. You probably noticed that the SM7B has an additional switch, which is a presence boost adjustment. So you can boost the sibilants for like T's and S's and that sort of thing, give your voice or whatever the instrument you have this pointed at a little more clarity. And so I am going to turn that on with my screwdriver. And now you can see a little hump in this window here, which indicates a boost in the high frequencies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pickled peppers on my pizza. Pickled peppers on my pizza. The Shure SM7B has another thing going for it. You're trying to use it outside and it is blowing, 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 and you need more wind protection. The Shure SM7B can do that. If you buy it brand new in the box, you will get an additional larger windscreen. Now, to take the original windscreen off, this foam, this doesn't just fit over the top, you actually have to take this one off and put this one on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab this ring of plastic at the base of the foam, and we're gonna get our fingernails behind that, or just kind of grip it firmly, kind of on both sides, and sort of gently just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle until it starts to come off, and there it goes. There you go. So you're able to remove this. And then if you need that additional wind protection, you take your wind protection and you slide it over the top of that, just like that. And now you're really covered for some gusty wind. The other thing that's nice about this coming off is now you can wash it. I'm sure you've seen people get real close to some podcast microphones and get their makeup on it and lipstick on it and germs on it, and that's not super appealing, especially when you've got like another guest coming in the next day and they don't want to get all that stuff on them. So you might want to take this off, put it in some soapy water and just swish it around and then wring it out a little bit, just gently because it is foam, and then just let it air dry, and then you got a nice clean microphone wind protection for the next guest. The RE20 can be cleaned as well. To remove the grill of the microphone, you have to loosen this set screw that's on the back of the grill. Once you've done that, you can unscrew the grill of the microphone. This allows you to clean the foam that's on the inside of the grill, as well as wash the grill itself. Let's do one more test. I want to hear the off-axis noise rejection of both of these microphones in a noisy environment. Okay, we've got both microphones set up. I've got my speaker set up. I'm going to be sending crowd noise to these speakers, and I'm going to be trying to talk into these microphones, and hopefully you can still hear me over the crowd. In each one of these microphones, we're going to do the SM7B first, then we'll do the RE20 and see if there's any difference. Okay, let's start some crowd noise. It's going to be about 90 decibels at the microphones, okay? So this is me with my mouth 3 or 4 inches off the front of the SM7B talking into the microphone. Pickled peppers on my pizza. Pickled peppers on my pizza. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I'm in front of the RE20. Pickled peppers on my pizza. Pickled peppers on my pizza. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now for reference, I'm going to play that same crowd noise and I'm going to say the same exact thing. And this time we're going to listen to the Sennheiser MKH50, which is over my head. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pickled peppers on my pizza. Pickled peppers on my pizza. If you are anything like me, you enjoy saving money wherever you can. And I buy most of my equipment, whether it's cameras or microphones, secondhand, so I buy used equipment. I am technically handy. I do soldering, I have equipment test tools, I have a little bit of training in that area, so I'm a little bit braver than most on buying secondhand and even questionable quality equipment, because I could repair it. Both of these microphones have interesting problems when you're buying them secondhand that you need to watch out for. If you are looking for a secondhand Electro Voice RE20, some of these RE20s are very old. Old enough to where the foam that's on the inside of them has deteriorated into sort of a pasty dust. The way to see if there's a problem with the RE20 you're considering buying is to shake it. Shake it this way, kind of move it around. If you feel something bumping back and forth when you shake this microphone, that means the foam surrounding the mic element has deteriorated and collapsed and crushed into dust, and that will need to be replaced. The other thing that you might find out when you shake this microphone is you might hear a little bit of a lightweight rattle, like tick, 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 tick. There's a small plastic filter directly underneath the mic diaphragm in this microphone that over time, over several years, will come loose and it'll start to rattle if it moves. That's why some people in the broadcast industry refer to these microphones as the baby rattle. That's how common this problem is. You can attempt to fix this problem yourself, but I only recommend it to those who already have experience soldering and fixing electronics. I had to replace all of the foam that was inside this microphone using a refoam kit that I found on eBay for $30, and I also had to buy a $6 bottle of super glue off of Amazon to secure that plastic filter at the end of the capsule. If you're shopping for a Shure SM7B, you've got a different problem. This microphone is so popular right now that counterfeits are being released into the marketplace. You might be thinking you just found a great deal on a brand new SM7B, but it's not the real thing, and it's kind of hard to tell. Here's a couple signs that you might be looking at a fake Shure SM7B. This cable should be relatively firm. It shouldn't be loose and flopping around. And this rubber grommet, where the cable goes into the body of the microphone, should be firmly attached and shouldn't be able to be pulled out easily. Another part to look at is this part of the microphone right here. The edges of this part of the microphone should be rounded like you see here. If this is just a flat circular top on top of a cylinder and there's no rounded edge here, that's a fake SM7B. Another way to tell is the screw holes in the back of the mic body, as well as the holes in the back of that plate that was covering the back of the mic body, should be countersunk. That way the bolts will screw in flush with the body of the microphone. If you've got a fake, they'll stick out. I love both of these microphones. I use both of these microphones. I own both of these microphones. If somebody was to come to me and say, I can only afford one microphone, which of these two should I get? I would have to say the SM7B. Here's why. It sounds great. It has an understated, rugged build. It has a mounting yoke that you can screw onto a mic stand just right away without having to choose between, do I get a clip or do I get a shock mount? It has a removable foam windscreen that you can clean. It has a bigger windscreen option for additional wind protection. I think it's a great microphone. This is very versatile. It's useful on all kinds of stuff, vocals and instruments and kick drums and guitar amps and all kinds of stuff. For me personally, being an audio geek, I can't resist the EV RE20. It's gorgeous. It's got a cool looking shock mount from space. It's just funky. And I prefer the sound. Personally, I prefer the sound of the Electro Voice RE20, and it's got a hotter output by a few dB than the SM7B, which is nice. And it still has the low cut feature, so that's good. Doesn't have the presence boost, but I think it has a little more presence to it than the flat SM7B does. So that's my opinion. And I'm handy with soldering irons and fixing stuff anyway, so if this requires a little bit more maintenance than this one does every 10 years or so, I'm capable of that. I hope this has been entertaining and informative for you to watch. I hope you learned something about both of these microphones, and I hope that informs your decision on which one is right for you. Good luck on finding the right microphone for you and your projects, and we'll see you next time.